back to the verdict. Before we took that break, we were discussing this issue of the economic cost. And at that time, I wanted to talk to the economist on the panel. I understand we can do that now. Mr. Fashua, who is in our Abuja studios, the presidential candidate of the Abundant Nigeria Renewal Party. Mr. Fashua, let me put this on the table this way. Provide some background to it. In the run-up to this election, because the blame is being shared, and it's easy to put the blame in various places, but there are some people, as Mr. Ogallop was pointing out before the break, that seem not to be put in the narrative. The INEC budget was submitted to the National Assembly on a particular date. By that time, political activities were in top gear. Members of the National Assembly from all the parties were in full flow of moving from one place to the other and all the attendant chaos that entailed. So the budget suffered. Eventually, the budget was passed, and INEC got the resources. All those who have ever done anything in procurement with reference to logistics and following all the rules know that the fact that you got money is not enough to be sure that everything is now okay. But we all went ahead and assumed that everything is now okay, or was okay. And then now, as again, I have to keep making reference to those pictures we got from some of the Youth Corps members who were called back, they were recalled to come and serve for election duties, and there was no arrangement made for them where they were. I mean, just to take that as the example. Now, in terms of the cost of all this, I mean, Mr. Shuaibu has talked about allowing people to stay back, especially those who have traveled. Mr. Ogala has pointed out the difficulty of assembling that kind of list. But beyond that, INEC itself will now have to incur additional cost for the new elections. There will be things that have to be redone all over again. Private businesses will do that and so on. Now, please, can you speak to that cost?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Akeredolu Ali. I was actually beginning to be quite exasperated that you had ignored me here, and the thing was almost becoming a PDP-APC affair. Minding the fact that by order of hierarchy, I'm the
apologies.
In fact, you're on this set right now. It's not easy to be a presidential candidate.
I'm not even aware you are one.
Yeah, he says it's not aware. That's a joke anyway. But having said that, you can see some of the fusions in this country is why we are where we are today. Nigeria, I remember in 2015, when the election was postponed, I remember the reaction vividly of now President Muhammadu Buhari, how livid he was. So I want to, of course, now it has turned the other way around. I think my issue in this instance is that, you know, it's coming so suddenly. In that other instance, we had some leeway and then about 6 weeks of postponement due to security reasons. First of all, we should not have a scenario where it has become habitual for INEC to always postpone elections, all right? So whatever the case is, that needs to be dealt with. And I think that INEC should rely more on information technology. A lot of the things that are done manually now should actually begin to translate to, you know, more enabled systems, as it were. Even, you know, especially the voting. There's no reason why people cannot vote anywhere they are. If people can use ATMs in any ATM machine, and they can use their cards, why can't we use the same card to vote anywhere? And that must be enabled. And all of this talk about, you know, how we are corrupt, how nothing can go right in this country, we need to move against that. Of course, you know, my party, ANRP, Abundant Nigeria Renewal Party, of course, our logo is a computer, and that's part of what we're saying. We're bringing this idea that, look, we have to depart from all those archaic ways of doing things, which are fraught with inefficiencies and corruption, and begin to move into a new era. And I must say that parties like ours, much as we may have been ignored up till now, are the ones that will determine the outcome of this upcoming elections. Those pundits who have thought that they had it wrapped up. It's a two-horse race, and so on and so forth. Perhaps to get a shock out of their lives, you know, as we move along. In terms
why
of
do I get the impression, Mr. Fashua, why do I get the impression that you are now campaigning? You are now campaigning. My question was about the economic cost. I asked you to speak to the economic cost.
The federal government, civil servants, public workers. That's what we're saying. Can you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, what I've heard so far does not speak to the economic cost.
So the public workers, under the auspices of the federal government, they are less than 100,000. The people employed by the federal government itself, you know, apart from parastatals, less than 100,000. Even if you take care of them and give them extra salary, it's not going to go any length. As a matter of fact, of course, you know that the informal sector is the largest in Nigeria. And a lot of when I got into Abuja, even if you went out now, you see that it's a ghost town. Even in Falomo Bridge that they showed where Gimba is right now, you can see there's nothing going on but a few security vehicles coming around. And, you know, that is the shutdown of the GDP. If Nigeria's GDP is about $400 billion every year, you know, we potentially have locked down the economy, all right, and we're losing $1 billion every day, you know, and that's what it means. And if you extend that and say, okay, let everybody remain where they are in the next 7 days, then we would have lost about $7 billion. You can actually discount it by half, about $3.5 billion shut down in the economy. Okay, the only thing that can bring this money back is actually good governance, I must say. I mean, how do you get the Igbo guy who's trading in Abuja or Lagos, who has gone back to Mbise or gone back to Olu or something? How do you pay him back that money that is lost? So these are the sacrifices. However, you know, we shouldn't have got to this point for two reasons. Number one, you should be able to vote anywhere you live. Number two, of course, the fact is that we are a, you know, increasingly disunited country where people actually bear more allegiance to the village where they're from than to the Nigerian entity as a whole. And that's the problem. Now, these are bigger issues that we need to deal with in time. You know, and of
Mr. Fashua, I'm sorry, let me just put you on pause.
How is INEC
Let me just put you on pause there for a second. It's good you talked about Mbise and Olo because that's in the southeast. Now, we've had reactions from Lagos. We've had reactions from Ogun as well. Now, let's switch over to our correspondent in Anambra, Joy Odinye, and she's going to give us an idea of how the southeast is feeling, but from the Anambra State perspective. Joy?
This is the popular Aroma Junction in Awka, the Anambra State capital. Ordinarily, this place would have been a hive of activities because this is a major commercial hub in Awka. But today, somehow it's really very dry because of the election. But unfortunately, the state election has been postponed. And here with me is also a journalist who has come out to, you know, monitor the election.
It's frustrating because we had prepared for this election. We were accredited as journalists. Even INEC itself promised that it was ready to conduct this election free and to that extent credible. But what is happening today, you know, is very unbecoming of the present government. So personally, as a journalist and as a citizen of this country, I am disappointed.
Okay, you've heard them there. It's frustrating.
That's the journalist now speaking.
Yeah,
that is now the journalist.
Yeah.
Let's not go into how frustrating it is even for us at the whole excitement that had built up over. But Mr. Schreiber, back to you, Frank. I want you now to speak to this issue of, I mean, we talked about the cost and all of that. The parties also have a cost here. Because if the elections are postponed by a week, it's additional cost. Are you going to resume rallies? Are you going to resume playing of adverts on traditional and social media? Are you going to print new posters and all of that? Now, without divulging the trade secrets of your party, speak to the costs to the parties themselves.
I'm sure you are more interested in the advertorial so that channels can make more money as well, and your program too can make money. Anyway, that's by the way, and that's a simple joke. Well, the truth of the matter is, the truth of the matter is it's a lot of costs on the party, on the candidate, and all our team of supporters across the country. But we are prepared for it. Prepared because we saw this coming. Prepared because we picked intelligence early enough, so we knew
So you have a contingency plan
they were working on. And but before I even proceed, you remember Mr. Ogala said clearly on this show that look, the scenario in 2015 is different because in 2015 it was the postponement was at the instance of the executive, but at this time round it is just INEC that handled the postponement. No, sir. I put it to you, Mr. Ogala, that when there was a coordinated arson on INEC offices in this country, from Plateau to Abia and all that.
Assault.
The chief security officer of the nation, it is not in the place of INEC to deploy security men to those INEC offices. In Oka, for instance, over 4,000 card readers were burnt down. Not a single statement from the office of the chief security officer of this country. It happened in Plateau, it happened in another location, it happened in Oka. And you say that this government didn't plan for this? These are clear indications that it was a careful plot. It was a coordinated arson. I said it on this program before that there was a plot. There was a game plan. And all these things, when they were playing out, what it reminded us of was the Osun playbook. But one thing I would assure Nigerians is the fact that the frustration of the people of Nigeria will be ventilated through the ballot on Saturday the 23rd. So we are not afraid. Yes, we are prepared. The resources, we'll muzzle the resources. We'll run adverts on your station if INEC guidelines permit, because I don't know what guideline now, what the rule will say. But whatever rule is applied, obviously, if we need to campaign, we will do that. But one thing is sure, the people's minds are made up. Those who are hungry know where to go. Those who have not been able to pay their children's school fees know whom to vote for. Those who have lost their loved ones in the last 4 years know whom to vote for. Those who have lost their jobs in the last 4 years know whom to vote for. Those who know that there is the habinga of job creation coming in 2019 know whom to vote for. So it is not an issue.
We are not afraid. It does appear as if Mr. Ogala.
I think you need to respond.
Mr. Ogala incidentally agrees with you.
He is agreeing with me.
Because he agrees with everything, as you were saying, everything you were saying.